Welcome back, Endgame community. It's Chris. I'm here to bring you this time 3 players who have all risk and no upside. These are guys you do not want to draft. If you missed my other video where I talked about 3 players with no risk and tons of upside, go check that out as soon as you finish this one. But today, we're looking at the risky players that have no upside. You guys remember when Ezekiel Elliott was good? Those were fun times. Unfortunately, those times are over. He's now entering his age 27 season, which means he's past his prime, and he's gonna reach the 2,000 touch mark probably by week 3 or week 4. The 1,000 touch mark is when running backs start to decline. The 2,000 touch mark, it's over for running backs at that point. And if you don't believe me, just look at his career point per game averages since he entered the league. 21.7 as a rookie, 20.3, 21.9, 19.5, 14.9, and 14.8. He was probably dust 2 years ago. He is absolutely dust now. Over the last 2 years, he's had 4 and 4.2 yards per carry. Over his first 3 years, he had over 20 attempts per game in each of those years. Last year, 13.9. And his yards per touch the last 2 years of 4.4 and 4.5 are well below his career average of 5.0. Are you starting to get it? Zeke is absolute dust. And sure, Zeke wasn't awful last year, but he only topped 20 fantasy points 4 times. And in those games, he had a combined 7 touchdowns. And another problem for Zeke is Tony Pollard is just simply better than him at this point, and he's starting to carve out a larger role. We already saw the attempts per game drop, but he also only averaged a little over 2 receptions per game last year. Zeke still has an okay floor thanks to his goal line work and the fact that the Cowboys are going to run him until he literally cannot run anymore. But he has almost no upside at all. And if this is the year that he truly finally breaks, then you've taken on way more risk than you need for a guy with no upside. DeAndre Hopkins has been one of the best wide receivers, not only in football, but in fantasy for many years. But that may have ended in 2021. According to Matt Harmon of Reception Perception, DeAndre Hopkins saw significant drops in his success rate against both man and zone coverage. Those are 2 areas he traditionally dominated. He also lacked that huge, massive ceiling we've seen in the past, only scoring more than 20 fantasy points in 1 game last year. Though to be fair, he did hit the 20 mark 2 other times. But that pales in comparison to 2021 when he did it 8 times. He also only averaged 14 points per game last year after averaging 18 or more points per game for 4 straight years. This is a guy entering his 30s and is likely on the downside of his career. He can still be good on those intermediate routes like curls and digs and be a possession receiver for Kyler Murray, but guys like that are no longer fantasy studs. And with the addition of Marquise Brown to this lineup, it's unlikely he's going to assume a larger role in the vertical passing game. We also can't ignore the fact that he's guaranteed to miss the first 6 games of the season, meaning you're only getting him for 2/3 of the fantasy year. Entering his 30s, his role in this offense, and the decline in his play and ability makes Hopkins a fine player in fantasy, but not the type of guy that's going to help you win week in and week out like we're used to. Darren Waller has had one of the most interesting careers in the history of the NFL. He battled substance abuse off the field for his first 4 years, even being suspended for the entire 2017 season. Then the Raiders took a chance on him, and he had a breakout 2019. Then he had a massive breakout 2020, and then 2021 saw him regress a bit. After a career-high 6.7 receptions and 74.8 yards per game in 2020, he saw big drops to only 5 receptions and just 60.5 yards per game last year. And this was with very little competition around him. Sure, Hunter Renfrow had a nice mini breakout, but who else? Bryan Edwards, Zay Jones, Josh Jacobs? There really wasn't a lot of competition for targets here. He should not have been this bad. And now the Raiders have this guy named Davante Adams coming into town who, last time I checked, is pretty good and is going to command a massive target share. Combined with Renfrow's expanding role, where does that really leave Waller? At best, he's the 3rd option on this team, which, is okay as far as tight ends go, but not when he's still being drafted as an elite top 4 tight end. The upside here is extremely limited, and it's hard to see a path for him even coming close to what he was back in 2020. And the risk? It's that we see the 2021 version of Waller, or maybe somebody even worse. And when you can get younger tight ends like George Kittle and Dalton Schultz, who have just as much upside with much less risk after Darren Waller, it seems crazy to me to even entertain drafting Darren Waller. You're honestly just better off drafting a different position and getting a tight end later. All right, guys, those are my 3 players who I think have no upside this year and all sorts of risk. I want to hear from you now. Drop a comment below. Let me know who's somebody that you think has no upside and tons of risk that people are overdrafting. And don't forget, if you haven't yet, subscribe to the channel, hit that like button, check out our Discord and our Patreon, link in the description below. We appreciate you guys, and I'll see you next time.